I killed someone 12 years, 6 months, and 4 days ago. Edit, fixed some grammar, made section more clear. Also got my timing mixed up. Chose my settled date on my court docket instead of my charge date. It's late early in the morning, but time is irrelevant, I guess. I want to preface this by saying I turned myself over after it happened, and I did go through the legal system, but have carried this burden and always will. When I was 18, my father had just bought me a used Ford Explorer, Exploder, as we called it. Started doing what most kids do, picking up friends and going to some parties, just messing around at the 24-hour Walmart and Taco Bell. One night, I picked up my buddy and decided to smoke some weed. This was when the dab scene was really starting to take hold, and popped the gas mask on, got high, and decided to go get some food. When we got to Taco Bell, there was this autistic kid who always came into Taco Bell and just asked people for some money to get something to eat. We always got him something just because we felt bad. It seems that his parents didn't know how to handle him, and he was just everywhere all the time. So much so, the community saved up and bought him a little moped. Anyways, we decided to leave and I dropped him off at home. Before I left his house, he gave me a Suboxone. I hadn't ever messed with anything other than weed at the time, but took it anyway. On my way home, I was starting to feel really bad. Sweating, nauseous, tunnel vision, and just overall felt like death. I pulled up to a red light and opened my door and pretty much projectile vomit. About 5 minutes later, I felt like I was going to pass out, but tried flexing my stomach muscles to keep myself awake and veered off onto the emergency lane and heard a very loud thud. I knew I had hit something and just figured it was debris or maybe an animal or something. Once I got home, I felt pretty safe and wasn't really thinking of anything other than taking a cold shower. My dad at the time was working midnights and was awake. My dad always had a habit of freaking out about lying, so I went ahead and told him I hit an animal, coyote or dog, etc. After he looked at my car, he told me there's no way you hit something small. It was too high up on the fender, and there was hair blood. He knew I was fucked up and forced me to go back to where I hit the animal. When we pulled up to the double-lane highway, there were cops' lights lit up all over the road. As we pulled up, I could feel this sinking feeling in my stomach that something just wasn't right. My dad's eyes became saucers as he looked at me. As we pulled up to the scene, the officer asked us to keep going, but my dad insisted I turned myself in, which I did. As it turns out, the autistic kid had just gotten his moped stolen a week or 2 ago. Found that out later. And he was the one I ran over, the autistic kid. I was drug tested and subsequently failed. Charged for causing death while operating a vehicle with a Schedule 1/2 controlled substance. Failure to return to scene resulting in death. My guilt lies with the outcome. I only did 3 years of house arrest and 5 years of probation. I can still see his face and can't eat Taco Bell since. Had this been another person, would my outcome be different? Why him? Out of all people, why him? I also want to say that this will be my only post and won't be responding anymore. Thanks for letting me share my late-night thoughts. If you or someone you know is thinking of or actually driving while intoxicated, don't. It literally just takes a split second to completely ruin everything around you. I'd give anything to go back and change the events that happened that night. I had to move out of my hometown due to it. Shame and just awful interactions. My goal is to become a motivational speaker for children, teens, and try to turn my experience into something good. To the victim's family, on the off chance that you are ever reading this, I know I have tried to come to you multiple times and been shut down, I understand. I understand your pain, fear, hatred, disgust, but I will never be able to understand your loss. If I could give you your son back, I would. I would do anything to make your family whole again. I don't expect you to forgive me, as I will never forgive myself. I've been married to the wrong woman for nearly 20 years. I know there are couples who grow apart. I know there are couples who are incompatible from the start, and everyone around them sees the couple and their incompatibility. However, I think I am one of the individuals who is in a marriage everyone thinks is lovely and ideal. Meanwhile, We are the complete opposite. Our views on money, family, religion, politics, material items, etc. are completely opposite. The worst part of the marriage is our views on romance, intimacy, affection, and love. In our relationship, I am 49, am the romantic, committed, and affectionate one. I am the one planning dates, making dinner, and planning surprising her with random gifts. In return, nothing. I cut off my dying father. My father's health has rapidly declined in these last few years, and all I have to say about it is that I'm glad he will be gone soon. My entire life I have lived in fear of him, always using his strength against me. He would beat the shit out of me as a 3-year-old child, scream in my face, scream in my mother's face. He would use harsh criticism as tough love. He would belittle all my interests, disrespect me over and over again. He tried to have complete and total control over me, even as an adult. Well now, dear Father, as you lay in your dying years, I will not be there for you. As you slowly die in a nursing home, I will not grant you mercy. As you lose everything around you, I will no longer remain by your side. I am not your son. I am not your family. Never look to me for help and reassurance ever again. I will not be the guiding hand that saves you from your misery, and I will let you die, knowing that I hated you. It's all you deserve. You were never a father to me. You were never even a person to me, and I can live happily, knowing you're no longer here to control me, to judge me, to abuse me. I am free, and you will die shackled to your own faults. I think a guy I was briefly seeing was planning to try to murder me for rejecting him. I was listening to a podcast about things people have found in abandoned buildings, giving me a flashback of a guy I went on a few dates with. The reason I am never using dating sites again is because it increases your chance of meeting psychopaths, narcissists, societal rejects, and hobosexuals, which is relevant to this situation. I met a guy on an app who seemed normal, and interestingly, I actually had seen him IRL when in the main part of the city, just chilling out in the park on his break. He worked in a particular place that was heavily female-dominated. We talked for 2 weeks on the phone and via Messenger before meeting in real life, where he seemed normal, until we actually met. He was shorter than he claimed to be, though we spent the day together doing activities and talking about our backgrounds. I realized he was very bitter about his manager being a woman. We went to the movies and he started nuzzling and rubbing on me like a cat. I told him to stop, then he would for about 20 minutes, only to start nuzzling on me like a cat again. Later, he kissed me without permission. Because he was driving us when he was dropping me off, he was strongly hinting he wanted the relationship to head to marriage after he sold his apartment. Firstly, I already was violated by him rubbing his head on me like a cat and kissing me without permission. Secondly, it seemed he was ready to marry anyone to get back at his relatively successful ex, like he had these angry micro-expressions when describing women. Afterwards, I said I don't want to see him again. He pretended to be okay with it and wished me well. Unmysteriously, I started getting abusive messages from an Anon account with threats of strangling and rape. When we did chat previously, I talked about wanting to explore abandoned buildings. There is actually an abandoned lab and psychiatric hospital in my city. One evening, the guy messages me asking if I want to explore the abandoned hospital in the middle of the night as friends, and not to tell anyone. I immediately felt that's a no from me, dog. I do legitimately think he was hoping to get me alone to either attack me or kill me, or both. I told him thanks, but I was busy. The guy tried again. Yet again. It was suddenly in the middle of the night. Like no previous planning or agreement, he wanted me to turn up at a specific time and start exploring. I've seen enough true crime to know it wasn't going to be a friendly adventure. I don't know what happened to him. My son clears the house with a knife multiple times a night, and it scares the hell out of me. My son is 20. Most of his teenage years, he smoked a lot of weed, and I let him. I didn't encourage it at all, but I never tried to stop him. It's what I did. And with the environment he grew up in, less at home, but in this area, I thought it was useless even trying. He was normal most of his life until about 17. He had an incident where he just started screaming in the middle of the night, and he barricaded his room. It was almost like he was dreaming whilst he was awake, and he was basically sectioned and held for 2 weeks. He was diagnosed with cannabis-induced schizophrenia. Nothing like that had ever happened since, but from then on, he would just constantly talk about people breaking in to an obsessive, completely crazy amount. He often yelps from his room and checks every room in the house, except mine. He'll just call out to me and I'll say it's okay. He is on a large dose of clozapine, and it is meant to be the strongest antipsychotic out there, and he's still really bad. He's not a violent person, far from it, but multiple times now, and I think he's doing it every night. He's clearing the house with a massive kitchen knife. First time I saw him do it, I legitimately thought he had gone mad and was about to kill me. Only for a split second. With where he is at now, if I tell his mental health team, I'm almost certain he will be sectioned again. What should I do? Thank you so much for watching. New stories every single day, perfect for sleeping, doing chores, and giving you something a little interesting to pass the time. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a potentially great story, and leaving a like helps the channel out a ton.